ভরা আমাদেরই বসুন্ধরা, তাহার মাঝে আছে দেশ এক, সকল দেশের সেরা। ও সে স্বপ্ন দিয়ে তৈরি সে দেশ, স্মৃতি দিয়ে ঘেরা। এমন দেশটি কোথাও খুঁজে পাবে না কো তুমি, সকল দেশের রানী সেজে আমার জন্মভূমি, সে যে আমার জন্মভূমি, সে যে আমার জন্মভূমি, সে যে আমার জন্মভূমি।
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Unfinished Memoirs. It is the 10th episode this Sunday. The Unfinished Memoirs is a fortnightly program where we read passages of Sheikh Rahman's unfinished memoirs. This is a rare and unprecedented historical document in Bangladeshi history. In this program, we host young talents in thought-provoking conversations about the content in a very creative space. It's a platform where young talents are not only elevated but also celebrated. So as always, as we hit our 10th episode, which honestly feels like yesterday, we had our first episode so long ago. But I want to say a big thank you to Mukti online channel BD, who showcases every 2 weeks, as well as a big thank you to Bongobondhuo Sangskritik Jote London branch for producing it into such high quality. A big thank you to our coordinators, Nazrul, Okib, and Cllr Aziz, Toki, who were the people behind the very idea in the first place. So thank you very much to them, as well as technical guidance to Jaman Islam, who's joined our team. And please do remember to like, comment, and share. We're broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube, as always. So there's a stream for everyone, a platform for everyone. So as we go into our 10th episode, I want to say a big thank you to my guests, who I'm going to be introducing now. We have Shanjita Biswas, as well as Muhammad Hawk and Shaukat Ahmed MBE, who is joining as our adult guest. Load and get all set up. Ready for us?
Hello.
Thank you everyone for joining today. I'm really excited for the caliber of guests that we have. So I'm actually just going to get started to let everyone know we're actually halfway through the book, which sounds about right since we're 10 episodes in. So we're halfway through the book, and as always, I've chosen passages that really showcase Bongobondhuo against oppressive forces. So I'm actually going to start with Shanjita. Guys, give me a second. Okay, so Shanjita, can you hear me?
We can see Sanjita.
Oh. Shanjita can hear me? Great. Okay, sorry guys about that. I'm back online now.
Can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, sorry about that, guys, for that hiccup. I'm back online now. So Shanjita, I'm going to pretty much let you go ahead and start your passage, please.
Okay. It wouldn't do for me, however, to stay outdoors for long because I couldn't afford to fall ill again. I would have to leave the bungalow early in the morning, even though the landing station was nearby. I arrived in Gangs. This time, too, my folks had come from Tungipara to meet me in 2 or 3 big boats. All my relatives were alarmed at the state of my health. My mother began to wail loudly on seeing me. I returned from the court in the evening. I would have to go back the next day for another round of hearings. I told the court inspector, why are you delaying proceedings? All the witnesses are here. But the subdivisional police officer was absent, probably because he was in Chittagong then. But it was a good thing that he had decided to stay away, since things had heated up to a boiling point, and there could be trouble because people were in explosive mood. I now witnessed an amazing event. The former police inspector of Golab Gangs had come to testify. In all probability, he had been transferred to Dhaka. He was well known in Gulab Gangs for his honesty and for not accepting bribes. When he gave his testimony, he didn't utter one falsehood. He truthfully narrated that he had witnessed. He testified that I asked the crowd to disperse silently. I could see that his perturbed the government attorney, but the testimony had been recorded. The court official had got it down on paper. What could be done now? I realized that the case against me wouldn't stick, but I also knew I would have to suffer a little longer. Pakistan, it was clear, still had police officials who didn't want to utter falsehoods. Because of the laws of our land, no one could be prosecuted if someone failed to give false testimony when a person was in the right. Only in cases when you began with falsehood and ended with it, you could hope to be successful. It is doubtful, however, if one can expect justice in a land where the law is based only on lies. A date has been set for our hearing again for next month. I went back to the police station like on previous occasions. For 2 days, I got the opportunity to meet all the members of my family twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. Uncle Raj and his wife wouldn't allow me to have food supplied from anywhere except their home. His wife was especially fond of me. My maternal grandmother, Uncle Raj's mother, was staying with them at that time. My food would be sent from their house. Of the people had come to see me from our village home, the women were staying with Uncle and his wife and the men in the boats. When Renu got to me herself, she said, I have no problem with you staying in jail, but make sure you have enough to eat. The sight of you has depressed me immensely. You should know that I have no one else in this world except you. My parents died when I was a child, and I have no one else to look after me. How will I survive if something happens to you? She broke into tears while saying this, and when I tried to console her, she began to cry even more. When they saw their mother sobbing, Hassan and Kamal started kissing her. I said what God wills would happen, so why worry about it? The next day, I took a leave. From then, by consoling my mother provoked to be much more difficult task. And so I came back to Furidpur jail once again. I found that Chanda Babu has been hospitalized, and then he was in a critical condition. He had hernia problem. He had somehow excreted pressure on his stomach, and an artery has been displaced. As a result, he had excreta coming out of his mouth, and he could die at any moment. The civil surgeon, however, was a very good physician. He wanted to risk an operation since the alternative was the Chandra's Babu's death. The man had no relatives around who would give the doctor the right to operate. Chanda Babu himself offered to give written permission for the surgery. He said, since I have no kin, what else is there to be done? The civil surgeon ordered his removal to the general hospital outside the prison. Chanda Babu said to him, I have nobody else, but I would like to see Sheikh Mujibur Rahman once before I leave, for he is like a brother to me. I don't think I will meet him again in this life. So under the directive of the civil surgeon and the jail superintendent, I was taken out of jail gate to meet him. He was lying on a stretcher. It seemed like he wouldn't survive. On seeing me, he burst out crying and said, my brother, my only regret as I approached death is that they tried to smear me with the charge of communalism. I have never made any distinctions between a Hindu and Muslim throughout my life. Do tell everyone to forgive me, and it's my last request for you to always treat people as people. God made no distinction between human beings. Since I have no kin of my own, I wanted to meet you before my death, since I consider you my relation. May God bless you. He spoke in such a manner that the superintendent, the jailer, and the physician, and even the official of the detective branch had tears in their eyes. I too was crying. I told him, "Don't worry, I always treat people as people. In politics, I make no distinctions between Muslims, Hindus, and Christians. All are part of the same human race." I didn't have the strength to say anything more. All I could tell him at the end is, "If God wills it, you may still get well again." And so they took him away. The civil surgeon told us, "There's little hope of success, but I'm going to give it my final try to operate on him." We are all very apprehensive. Who knew what the outcome of the operation could be? 2 hours later, the jail authorities informed us that the operation was over and he was doing fine. In the evening, we were told that he was likely to survive, though he was still not out of danger. We spent the night worrying about him, but the morning news was that he was definitely improving. He was no longer throwing up his scooter through his mouth. We had reason to hope that he had escaped death on this occasion. The next day, the government made him a free man, but even though he was free, he would have to stay in hospital for a few more days because he still had to be certified out of danger. I think he had to remain in hospital for 15 more days. He was clearly out of danger, even though his wounds wouldn't heal completely. As soon as he was discharged from the hospital, the district magistrate issued some fresh conditions for his release. He would have to live in his village, Ramdia. When Chandra Ghosh went to meet the magistrate, he told him, "If you want to remain in Pakistan, you have to confine yourself your own village. And if you want to go to Calcutta for medical reasons, we wouldn't object. But when you come back, you'll have to inform the police of your return." Chandrababu agreed to these conditions and came to the prison gate to claim the few possessions he had. He had sent word to me of his departure. I was greatly saddened because he was leaving us. A few days later, Pani Babu too had been taken somewhere or the other. Now I had to stay in the room all by myself, even though during the day I got to meet the other prisoners, but at night I was all by myself. However, Sunday we would all sit together and chat and tell each other stories. We wouldn't talk about politics much, since the subject would inevitably lead to debates. 4 of the other inmates had the same ideology, while I had my own views, and Babu Nepal Naha had his own ideas about politics. In other words, politically we didn't see eye to eye. Mr. Maruf Hassan was charged of the food served in jail. We used to call him manager. We had tough times surviving on the food that was served us. However, Faridpur is well known for its vegetables, so we would occasionally serve some. In any case, I would go to the Golap gang again through my hot weekend, even more, and my eyesight had become worse, so much so that I couldn't read anymore. I was also suffering from rheumatic pain in my left foot. The civil surgeon and the physician treated me as well as they could, but I wasn't showing any improvement. They said they would like to send me to Dhaka jail since the Faridpur one didn't have facilities to treat inmates with heart and eye conditions and could be best treated in Dhaka Medical College Hospital. I said, "Do whatever you think is best. Who am I to decide?" It took a few more days for the jail authorities to exchange notes on my conditions. Eventually, the government sent orders to remove me to Dhaka jail. To go there, I would be taken from Faridpur to Golando by train and from Golando by steamer to Narayanganj. From Narayanganj, I would be taken in a taxi to Dhaka jail. From the prison gate, I would be removed to the prison hospital. Golando had a very comfortable steamer service to Dhaka. The government had issued me an inter-class ticket for me. I said I would only go in first-class ticket, since the steamer would be awfully crowded and I wouldn't be able to get any sleep. Why wouldn't they use my money, which they had in the deposit, to buy me a first-class ticket? They realized that they had to give in, since I wouldn't budge from my stance. Moreover, the poorer government employees never wanted me to be in any distress. When I came to Dhaka this time, it was the end of 1951. I stayed in jail here for almost a month. My baggage was taken to a place, and I had been put up before. Maulana Bashani had been released by this time. A few days later, I came to know that Barishal's Mr. Mohaudin had been brought to Dhaka jail under the Public Secretary Act. Till recently, he had been General Secretary of the Muslim League. Apparently, the government had arrested him for his involvement in communal riots. A violent communal riot had taken place in the Barishal in 1951. Mohuddin was a very able worker for the movement that had resulted in the creation of Pakistan. In the student movement, he had belonged to my opposed camp. Even though we left the Muslim League, he hadn't. In Barishal, my good friend Nazi Bahoudin, once his co-worker, had opposed him. As a member of the Students' League, my co-workers and I were always worried of him since he had been blind to his support of the government. But now we have met and exchanged views. It was obvious that he had changed a lot. I could see that if released from jail, he would no longer be part of Muslim League's politics. He confessed to me that he could now see that the communal politics was harmful for Pakistan. Since I couldn't be treated properly in Dhaka jail hospital, I was sent to Medical College Hospital. I declared that they would give me a cabin, a private room, if they wanted me to go there. The government agreed. Due arrangements were made. There had been a gulf of misunderstanding separating Mohuddin and me, but now the two of us has become more intimate in prison, and we soon became good friends. Mohuddin said, "Your party and the student leagues will launch a movement of independence for you. No one will do anything for me since I was in Muslim League, and it is Muslim League's government that has arrested me. You know very well that I'm a political worker. It isn't possible for me to start riots on my own, but they were making all kinds of false allegations against me. This is because of the two factions within the league. Since I am in the faction that opposes Mr. Nurul Amin, he had arrested me under the Public Secretary Act." He said he went on to say, "You have Mr. Shurawardi and Maulana Bashani to launch a movement for you." I replied, "Let bygones be bygones. If I ask for my freedom now, I will ask for your freedom. Just wait and see." A few days later, I was brought to Dhaka Medical College Hospital. My eyes were bothering me a lot now. The first thing they did was have my eyes examined. Captain Lashkar, the famous eye specialist, was looking after me. In a few days, my eyes got better, but I was told that it would take some time for them to be completely cured. Dr. Shamsuddin began the treatment of my heart. In the evenings, a lot of people came to meet me since the visiting hours were from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. In those days, the hospital only had a few cabins. My cabin was located right next to the stairwell leading to the first floor. Medical college students would come in groups to see me, and there was no stopping them. There were some policemen posted outside my cabin. When the night fell and the crowd thinned, I would walk in the vendana, though I was still quite weak. Maulana Bashani had kept himself busy ever since his release from jail. Mr. Shamsul Haq was quiet for a while. Mr. Shurawardi had come back to East Bengal by this time. Together with the Maulana, he addressed public meetings in Memsite, Comilla, and other places. On every other of these occasions, the Muslim League tried to create trouble. In the meetings held in Dhaka, the government imposed Section 144. However, Mr. Shawaradi decided to go to Armanitola. Since many people had gathered in the meeting space, Mr. Shurawardi had requested everyone there be dispersed since he didn't want anyone to violate Section 144. He and Mr. Maulana Barashani had been vociferous in demanding my release from jail. They emphasized in their speeches that I was unwell and in hospital. Mr. Shurawardi and Mr. Autur Rahman Khan took special permission from the government to meet me. We talked about a lot of things, and Mr. Shurawardi showed his affection for me in every way. He called for the attending physicians and told them that they must take good care of me. I brought up the subject of Mr. Mohuddin with Mr. Shurawardi. He reacted with dismay and said, "I guess you don't know that Mr. Muhuddin is the person who sent letter against me to Liaquat Ali Khan, full of fabricated information when I'd gone to Barisal as part of the peace mission in 1984. He also took active part in the communal riots that took place there in 1951. I said, "Sir, people can change. I think you know that he's a good worker, and now he's in jail with me. Believe me, he has changed a lot. If we can bring him back to the right path, our country will benefit. It wouldn't do us any harm if we decide to adopt a liberal policy. When you talk about securing my release in public, do mention his name too, and please tell others to do the same. Mr. Shurawardi was a broad-minded, as sea is vast. Whenever a man went to meet him, no matter how great of an offender he was, he would forgive him. Mr. Shawat Katmia and student league workers had printed a petition demanding my release. Many well-known political workers of Dhaka City had signed the petition. I requested Shawat Mia to be kind enough to also include Mohaddin's name with mine. The student league's activists became upset at my suggestion. They would often steal into my hospital room late at night to meet me. Now, I tried to persuade them, but the student leaders from Barishal misunderstood my intentions. However, I was able to clear the misunderstanding later after I was released from jail. When Maulana Bashani and I were in jail in October 1951, Mr. Liaquat Ali Khan had been shot to death in Rawalpindi. Khajana Nazimuddin then gave up his position as Governor General to become Prime Minister and chose Ghulam Muhammad, then Finance Minister, as his successor. Liaquat Ali Khan had become a victim of the kind of machinations that he himself had introduced into politics. Till now, no one has labeled his assassins or discovered whether it was a work of a single man. And you can be sure that the truth will never be uncovered. But it is pretty obvious that the people behind the assassins were very influential, since they left behind no clues at all. The Prime Minister of Pakistan was shot dead in broad daylight. How did the assassins manage to find a spot so close to the victim? How could he fire a shot without being detected by anyone? Why was the assassin himself shot dead immediately afterwards? All these questions troubled many of us at that time, even though it was his instigation and Mr. Nurul Amin's concern about us that sent us to jail. I was saddened by the news of Liaquat Ali Khan's death, but this is because I've never believed in politics of conspiracy. Instead, I was very fearful of a Pakistan where intrigue was becoming a constant leitmotif in politics. It is difficult to articulate the horror I feel at the thought of the kinds of tactics adopted where you dispose of your opponent with a bullet. Those of us who believe in democracy abhor such reprehensible model of action.
Thank you, Sanjita. That was a lot to read, but I'm really grateful, and that was a really good narration, well paced. And thank you very much for coming back as well as a returning guest. And thank you to everyone who was commenting and wishing best wishes to all of our participants. If anyone's got a certain topic that they want us to cover, please do let us know in the comments, and I'll be sure to take that onwards when we have the next few episodes, because we started to put themes into our episodes as well. So for Sanjita, I asked her to look at religious diversity and forgiveness as well. So in these paragraphs, Sanjita, there is discussion about religious diversity as Bongobondhuo makes a poignant statement as seeing all human beings as equal. And there's talk of forgiveness against, political rivals as he appeals to Mr. Sawadi to give Mohyuddin a second chance. So there is a long history of tension between different religions. What is your opinion on Bongobondhuo's statement that in politics, I make no distinction between Muslims, Hindus, Christians, all are part of the same human race? What can we learn from religious diversity?
I definitely agree with that statement. In politics, you want the people, society to trust you. By having religious biases, part of society will feel like they've been segregated and the laws are unjust. and that could obviously cause more riots and violence across the nation. And the important thing I've seen everyone as human beings is that if you're going to serve the country, you want to serve everyone equally and not as different groups.
Sure. And, when he talks about in regards to forgiving Mohyuddin, he states, if we can bring him back to the right path, our country will benefit. It won't do us any harm if we decide to adopt a liberal policy. So do you agree or disagree with this approach, and why?
I agree with the approach because, well, when he was in prison, I was talking to Mr. Mohyuddin. He noticed that he has definitely moved on from that mindset. So by giving him another chance and letting him show the world that he has changed and he has adapted new beliefs and ideologies, he could bring good to society and benefit other people around him.
Thank you very much. Those were very succinct, good answers, especially to the questions that I gave you that are obviously quite deep and philosophical. So thank you very much. And thank you for Sanjita for returning as an incredible guest, as always. So now I'm going to moving on to Ehsan, who is our second young participant, who's a returning guest. Ehsan, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, thank you for coming back, and thank you for being engaging and enthusiastic as always, just as Sanjita was. So I will let you read your passage, please.
Mr. Nazimuddin had come to East Bengal soon after he became Prime Minister. He had said nothing much during his first trip there, but later, probably towards the end of 1951 or perhaps January 1952, he gave a speech in Paltan Maiden where he declared Urdu will be the only state language of the Pakistan. He thereby broke the pledge he had made in 1948 when he was the Chief Minister of Pakistan in a written agreement with the committee set up to make Bengal the state language. He had pledged that it would be the official language of the province. He had later tabled a motion in the provincial assembly that year to this effect. He had also agreed to officially request the central government in the National Assembly to make Bengali the state language of Pakistan. Such a resolution and been adopted unanimously in the East Bengal Provincial Assembly. It was in Dhaka that he had made pledges, and it was in Dhaka that he would break them. His action caused a huge uproar throughout the country. The only party in opposition at the time, the East Pakistan Awami League, its student wing, the student league, and its youth wing. The youth league protested against his decision as loudly as they could. I reminded hospital all this was happening. One night Mohammed Toha and Oli Ahid came to meet me, sneaking in through a window of my cabin that opened into a ward. I had told them to meet me after 1 a.m. I had also told them that I would like to talk to Cllr, Nawaz, Qazi Ghulam Mahbub, and a few other student leaders. My door was being guarded by IB people at this hour of night. Most of them would be asleep. This was when 5 to 7 of them came to meet me. I used to walk by myself till late at night, since no one used to visit me. Then they allowed me to walk on my own. The police would lie down quietly, knowing that I wasn't going to run away. The detective branch people tended to nod off to sleep. We could therefore talk in the vendor. I told them that we should form an all-party united front. The Awami League leaders had already been informed. The student league was the only student organization with a following at this time. The student league leaders agreed to my proposal. Oli Ahid Toha declared that the Youth League would also agree to it. There was a conspiracy afoot toward the demand for establishing Bengali as a state language. Now, if there was no protest, the National Assembly would introduce legislation to make Urdu the only state talked about, making Urdu the only state language. He had also came up with many new arguments to buttress its claims. Also, Oli Ahid wasn't a member either of the Awami League or the Student League. He was very fond of me and respected my views. I told him I've came to know that they are going to send me back to jail soon, since they believe that I've been busy politically in the hospital. Came back again to meet me tomorrow night. I also asked for a couple of other student league leaders to meet me. Then I wanted Shaukat Mia to be there too. The next night, all these people came to see me, one after the other. We decided in the meeting in my room to observe 21st February at State Language Day and to form a community that day to conduct the movement to establish Bengali as the state language. The convener for the movement would be a member of the Student League. A campaign would be launched from the beginning of February to mobilize public opinion. I told them I myself go on hunger from the 16th of February, demanding my release from prison. I have been in jail for 26 months already. I added Mohideen is in jail too, and we live in cells close to each other. I will let you know if I can persuade him to join the hunger strike with me. In that case, add his name to mine in your campaign to secure my release. When I give you notice that I am going on a hunger strike, Shaukat Mia will be responsible of printing pamphlets and posters, so see to it that they are distributed and posted. 2 days later, I had found out that a medical board had been instituted to examine me. They declared that I was much better now and that my treatment could be continued in jail. The government sent me to Dhaka jail even though I hadn't recovered completely. As soon as I came back to jail, I talked to Mohideen. He agreed to go on hunger strike till death with me. The two of us sent a petition to the government on 1st of February when the jail administration requested me not to go on hunger strike. I pointed out to them that I had languished in the jail for 26 or 27 months without a trial. I had been guilty of no crime. I had made up my mind now that I would force myself out of jail, either alive or dead, in other words, either I will go out of the jail or my dead body will go out. They informed the government of our resolution. We had already informed people outside that we would question the government about our decision to go on a hunger strike. All Awami League officers outside the city, the student league workers of all branches were alerted. The Awami League had its office only in a few districts at this time, but I had my friend and associates in all the districts of the country. Meanwhile, the all-party state language action committee had been formed February 21st, had already been chosen at the State Language Day since the East Pakistan Provincial Assembly was scheduled to sit in session on that day. Qazi Gul Mahbub and had been made the convener of the council in 1948. Students had been launched the movement establishing Bengali as a state language entirely on their own. I was sure that this time our people would come forward to support the movement, since they could understand by now that if Bengali was not made the state language, they would have to wear the chains of servitude. Once again, no nation can bear any insult directed at its mother tongue. Although 56% of people of Pakistan were Bengalis, the West Pakistanis didn't want Bengali to become the state language. On the other hand, Bengalis wanted to make their language the state language, along with those who had no objection against that language, but they mistook the generosity of Bengalis in the rugged as a sign of weakness. By this time, however, Bengalis were beginning to perceive that they were beginning discriminated against all sphere of trade and commerce, because Karachi was the capital of Pakistan. Bengalis were beginning deprived of all sorts of advantages. The East Pakistani Awami League demand for regional autonomy and the Grand National Convention, where the call for autonomy had been voiced by all parties, had articulated the position of Bengalis effectively. The more the leaders of the East Pakistani Muslim League were getting alienated from the people, the more dependent they were becoming on a West Pakistani country and the West Pakistani bureaucracy. Khawaja Nazimuddin and Mr. Narrul Amin were beginning to be afraid of the people. That is why, after their party was defeated in the Tengali election, they did not have the courage to go on the polls again, even though seats of the provincial assembly had fallen vacant since then, because they had all started to lose the confidence of the people. Muslim leaders were becoming more and more dependent on the bureaucracy. The then Chief Secretary was Mr. Aziz Ahmed, original of the Indian Civil Service. He was very intelligent and sagacious man, and was also efficient and well versed in administration. He used to work as the representative of the central government as a witness in the public offices. disqualification of Order Podo 23 trial of Mr. Hamidul Haq Chowdhury. All ministers testified and kept the central government informed about their activities. Hamidul Haq Chowdhury had been forced to quit the ministries, but the colleges were still in power. They didn't have the guts to do anything, though, since most of them could not stand up to someone Mr. Aziz Ahmed Kibri to enforce public opinion in their favor. They resorted to isolating the Awami League and the leaders and workers of all parties opposed to them. They were beginning to invoke the public secretary at the slightest provocation. Meanwhile, the two of us were getting ready to fast and on to death in jail. We talked over our strategies and decided that we would not break our fast for any reason at all. And if the consequence was death, so be it. The people in charge of the jail, in practical, the superintendent, Mr. Aziz Amir Hussain, and the deputy jailer in charge of political prisoners, Mr. Mukhtar Rahman, tried to dissuade us. I told them that we had nothing against them and that our hunger strike was not directed at them. If we were strike was not directed at them. If we were on a hunger strike, it was only because the government had detained us for months without trials. We had been in jail for a long time now, but I had never had any differences with them. I assured them that we were fully aware that they had to follow orders of Rahman, who was a very amiable, gentle, and well-read man. On the morning of 15th of February, I was taken to jail gate on the accused that would be talked with us about our decision to fast unto death. Immediately after, Mujibur was brought to the gate under the same pretext. A few minutes later, our baggage, clothes, and linen were also brought there by the janitor. I said, "What's going on?" The people in charge replied, "We had orders to take you to another jail." I asked which one. No one had a reply to this query. Meanwhile, the armed police and IB officers were getting ready to escort us, but they couldn't hide our destination from us for long, and I found out that I was being taken to Faridpur jail again. In fact, both of us were being sent there. It was 9 a.m. by then. We supposed to board the steamer that they left Nariganj. At 11, I started to delay them as much as I could, since I knew that if we had immediately, no one would know where we were being sent to. I took out my books one by one and then all my clothes. I began to go over my accounts to find out how much money I had spent and how much I had left. Managed to procrastinate till it was 10 o'clock. It took us another half an hour to leave. The armed sub there and the officers to the detective branch were trying to rush as us as much as they could. The sergeant was a man from Belgium, and he had been posted in Gotland. And at that time of the partition of India, he respected me and was also very fond of him. He had Pakistan. As soon as he saw me, he had said, "How come you are in jail?" All I said reply was fate. They had arranged a horse carriage which could be locked up from outside. As soon as we put into it, they rolled down the windows and shut the door. Two girls sat down inside with us. A carriage followed along the park road that runs parallel to Victoria Park. When we reached the park entrance, we saw that a taxi reversed by the police was waiting for us. At this time of the day, it was normally difficult to find a taxi for hire here. We got down from the carriage and got into the taxi slowly. However, we did not meet any of our applicants, so we kept looking for them. Our escort kept asking the taxi driver to speed up. On the other hand, kept arguing the taxi driver not to rush, lest we ended up losing our lives in a road accident. When we reached the landing station, we found out that steamer had left. What was to be done? Where could they take us? The next ship was scheduled to leave at 1 a.m. We were taken to Narrated police station. They froze their spirits and sought permission to keep us here. We were taken to a room in the police barracks. I met an acquaintance in the police station. I requested him to go in touch with the Shams's home. Everyone in the city knew where Khan Sahib Osman Ali house was within an hour. Mr. Zohan, Bazul Rahman, and many others came to see us. They brought along food for us. Later, Mr. Almas Ali came to meet us. I told them we are supposed to eat in a hotel tonight. Let me decide which hotel it will be. Make sure that you are there when we arrive. When we need to talk over a few things, I managed to tell them in the little time we had why we were being transferred from Dhaka to Faridpur jail. But the people handling us did not let them stay in the police station for long, so we had our goodbyes and giving them the name of the hotel where we were meeting at night. I told them that they could expect to be there between 8 and 9. It was a new two-storied hotel that had just been built on the Dhaka-Narregen highway. I told the sergeant in charge of us we need to eat, so let's go to hotel. We can go to landing station. Afterwards, he agreed readily. I was confident that he would heed our request. Besides, they would have to feed us somehow. He had our baggage sent to the station with a guard, and we reached the hotel as scheduled. We sat down to eat. Mr. Zohar was waiting for us along with 8 to 10 of our party workers. We had our food at leisurely pace discussing issues. All the while I found out how Maulana Bassani, Mr. Haq and the other leaders were doing. They told me that they would try to have newspaper to send to us so that we keep abreast of current events. I pointed out that the weekly effect would do. I also let them know that we are going on a fast unto death, that we were going on a fast unto death from the next day, but they seem to already know of our resolution to politically activists can forgive sacrifice made by the party workers of Narragansett and their patience and forbearance. They told us on 21st of February we were going to enforce a hard tool in Narragansett. We are going to strike to demand that Bengali be made the state language, but we are also going to demand your freedom. That day to our leaders kept asking me if they to trust Mohidan and if he would change colour again and prove himself a Muslim leaguer. Once he came out of prison, I told them, let's do our duty and let him do what he's supposed to be doing. I am sure he won't return to the Muslim League. I have no doubts on that account. He is prisoner, so why should we have any reservation about campaigning for that freedom? About can be won over by good manners, love and sympathy, and not by force hatred of oppressive means. We reached the landing station at 11 that night. The steamer was waiting in the station. Our fellow party workers stayed with us till the steamer left the river port. We took leave of everyone at 1 a.m. I told them it is possible that we will never meet again in this life. I hope all of you will forgive me. I have no regrets. I will have to die sooner or later, and if I do so while taking a stand against oppression and injustice, such a death would be worth it.
Thank you, Rahman. Thank you very much. I know I gave you a long to read. That was like 5 pages, so thank you very much. So, obviously, Ekush February is gone now. It's been a week since then, but I wanted to bring it up because he discusses it in the passage. So, in the passage, Bongobondhuo, mentions Ekush February and the ramifications of the event. So, it's quite interesting to read it from a first-hand point of view. And he declares there was a conspiracy afoot to thwart the demand for establishing Bengali as the state language. Ekush February is now internationally recognized as International Mother Language Day, as a day to celebrate linguistic diversity and cultural differences. How do you think native or mother languages contribute to cultural diversity? Do you believe that languages are important for preserving human connections and community?
Mother language is one of the most important things in culture. The way people communicate with each other, make relations and friendships, and create a sense of the community, and communication is a key component of any social tie, and language is an important aspect of that as a British Bengali, it is important that I learn my mother language and learn more of the culture.
Yeah, and in the passage she talks, so this is completely different, so thank you for that, but this is on a different topic. So in the passage she talks at length about hunger strikes in prison, which you obviously discussed, and hunger strikes were actually notoriously used, and I think they even used now by political prisoners, activists. So for example, the example I thought was American English suffragettes, so women who were fighting for the right to vote. And why do you think these activists resort to hunger strikes? Do you believe that such extreme measures are effective in social justice causes?
Because Bongobondhuo and Mujib were in prison for 26 months with hunger strike is a method of no violent protest to make a political change. That's it.
Thank you, guys. I'm just joining in from my laptop, so it's better quality for everyone. So thank you, Essam, for that. Because we're wrapping up, I'm actually going to move to adult guest MBE. Thank you for that. Who's been waiting very patiently. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you, Sejuti.
Yeah. What did you think? What did you think of the episode?
I was amazing. Both the readings by Sanjida and Ehsan is such a heartwarming that our young people are taking interest in their heritage, wants to know more about Bangladesh and Bengali history, and they're reading the memoirs. I watched your 9th episode, and now to the 10th one. Both the episodes, both the readers did so well. We are really proud of them, and I hope your listeners, your viewers who have joined also take interest in knowing the being proud of their own heritage of being a Bengali. They are British Bangladeshis. They should be proud of their heritage and get to know the history. Can I just make a comment on the readings that they've done? I mean, Sanjida read a part which is mostly one of my most liked part in the book. You can see the love and respect between Bongobondhu and Chandra Ghosh. Bongobondhu is a Muslim, Chandra Ghosh is a Hindu. They are both in prison. They're like brothers. That tells you everything you need to know about Bongobondhu and his idea of coexistence of all religions. And he believed it fundamentally. Today, the world can learn a lot from Bongobondhu, what he thought in last century, in the 50s. Today, the world is in a big mess because of how the religion has emerged as a big political weapon. We're in a mess in America, in India, in Pakistan, in Nigeria, in Middle East, because people are preaching intolerant religion and religious extremism. And Bongobondhu saw that the way forward for humanity was that we treat each other with respect and equally. All the religions are equal and they should respect by the state equally and have equal rights. And he knew that. And in Sanjida's other part, which is also very interesting for people who follow Bangladesh politics, Bongobondhu never believed in politics of conspiracy. A lot of the politics that takes place in the subcontinent are backroom deals, stabbing each other, betraying each other, and Bongobondhu never believed that. He was always a very transparent politician. He knew, he told people what he was planning, he told people what his objective was, and he would implement that. He wouldn't do a bad deals with an oppressor, with a general for some advantage. And that was beauty of his politics. Liaquat Ali Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, was killed by conspirators. Same Liaquat Ali Khan imprisoned Bongobondhu in the prison. But Bongobondhu was feeling sorry for Liaquat Ali Khan because he was killed through conspiracy. He never wanted to come to power through conspiracy. He always believed that people should vote him in, and through the ballot box, people can come to power. Not through martial law, not to conspiracy, not by help of foreign governments. That is our Bongobondhu. And that part was really important, that we realize Bongobondhu never did politics or conspiracy. And coming to last, just to 1 minute on, Hassan read. First, Hassan is very young, and I just take my hat off to him that he read so well and so patiently. It's a long reading. This is month of February. There's a lot of misinformation about Bongobondhu's role in the language movement. And this is spread by a vested group. Bongobondhu was in prison in 1952, but he played a fundamental role in organizing the students and directing them, and the hunger strike, and the breaking of Section 144, Section 144 on 21st of February. And that is always lost. So I tell my your young viewers, please read the memoirs. Talk to Bongobondhu directly. He wants to tell his story to you. Don't have to listen to anybody else. He has penned it down for you, the truth. Read that, then make up your mind. You don't have to read hearsay and third-hand stories and he says so and she says so. Talk to Bongobondhu. He wants to speak to you. Listen to him. Read his book. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually want to build on your point, actually, because I've learned so much from reading, because I have to obviously read the memoirs before I can pick which passages. And what was really interesting for me is that the viewpoint of Bongobondhu in my head was actually the picture that growing up, that I had of this. I kind of saw him as this great big, superhero. He's untouchable, he's invincible. When you read the memoirs, he's very human. And he's very personable as well, which I think is really enjoyable. When I was reading, I was like, this man is he's really funny. Like, he's very, when you're reading the books, he's so personable. There's so much humor in what he's talking about. But also the poignant moments, so when he's talking, he's telling his stories. So when he's talking about religious diversity, it's so human that it's really moving. So that's why I put it in there, because I thought, like you said, it's probably one of my most favorite parts as well, where, this is something he said to a friend, but it's really something that we can take on. And that's why we created the show, is because we really wanted to make Bongobondhu very personable for people who didn't grow up with following him. A lot of our parents, they were very young when Bongobondhu was alive. Maybe they were teenagers when Bongobondhu was alive, so they still got that experience, but we don't. We've got history, we've got hearsay, and it's very easy for us to just go off what other people have told us. So I would definitely recommend that. And I like that you said, make your own opinion. You don't have to blindly follow him or agree with what he says. But for me, what it was that made me really admire with him was his memoirs are really important, because you get to see his viewpoint from the very beginning, when he was our age up until now. He talks about it in a very retrospective way, but that's how he does it. And I thought that was a very special way. It's very different to other political figures' memoirs that you may have. A lot of the memoirs that you have now are biographies, and they're not really autobiographies these days, because a lot of political figures in history died before they could do that. So for him to do that in jail, it's almost like he knew that this was something that needed to be written, which I think is really important. And that's why it's probably, in my mind, the most unprecedented historical document there is. So as we're wrapping up, I just wanted to ask, based on what you've seen in today's episode, do you believe creating platforms for younger generations will help seeing how we can support the younger generation?
I totally believe in it. I'll explain why. You are my son, my grandchildren, they are British Bangladeshis. They have so many identities, and they will have mixed identities. You'll be British. I want you to do really well in this country, go to university, become a professor, become an astronaut, become a social worker, whatever. Also, you're a Bangladeshi. You have a Bengali heritage, so you need to know about that. You may be a Muslim, you may be a Hindu, you might have heritage of that. So identity, people talk about identity crisis of young people. I don't see that as identity crisis, it's an identity advantage. A girl like Shanjida or Ehsan has got 3-4 identities, and they must be able to play with that, and they must learn about that. They must be proud of that. I think what this platform, your program, is doing is to make young British Bangladeshis proud of their heritage, proud where they came from. Once you're proud of your heritage, You want to know more about your country, your parents or your grandparents came from. Once you know more about that, you want to go and visit it. You want to see what food they ate, what clothes they wear, what songs they sing, what poems they write, what literature. That's how you build up, you find your roots. If a young person gets dissociated from his or her roots, then it's very hard for her to belong anywhere. So people like Sanjida and Ehsan, they belong to a British Bangladeshi ethnic group, and they have got that identity in the head, and they have to be proud British. We want them to be really successful in this country, be proud, be a successful person. Also look back at their heritage, and your program is doing that. And I really feel proud of you, what you're doing, Sejuti, and the channel that is hosting you. I think keep doing this work. It's fundamental, and I thank you for that. Can you hear me?
Thank you very much. I'm just checking. Okay, good. I'm still connected. So yeah, as we wrap up, maybe you can just give us a minute before I finish the show. What advice would you give to parents watching or who may hear the show who want more involved in their child's development and making them more proud of their heritage? You know, have their own standpoint in their own heritage and their own identity.
Sorry, I didn't follow that. Was it for me? There's some technical problem, I think. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Give me a second. Hold on. Yeah. Can you hear me?
I missed your question. Sorry. I missed your question.
Give me a second. I'm coming in. Right. I'm back. I've been switching back and forth between my mobile and laptop. But we can do this. Last 5 minutes. Let's do it. Okay. So just if you can give me before I wrap it up, can you give any advice to any parents who maybe want to be more involved in their child's development?
Yes, there are, I'm sure parents know a lot about their own children, but if they want a total development of the children and want to inspire them to like or to be proud of being Bengali, then two things. I always say that. Don't get hung up that they can't speak Bangla or Sylheti. That comes later on. First thing is make sure your child feels proud of being a Bengali. He or she listens, learns, knows about Bangladesh, how well Bangladesh is doing or how badly it's doing. They empathize with people of Bangladesh. In recently, there has been so many reasons for Bengalis to be proud of their achievements. Bangladesh is doing well. It was a very poor country when we became independent, overpopulated, no natural resources. From there, today, Bangladesh has become a developing country. Day before yesterday, even recognized us as a developing country, not least developed country, a developing country. It's a big milestone. So once parents can make their children feel proud of their heritage and history and of Bangladesh, the language learning and other communication comes after that. I think that is a total development. When a person is proud of all their identities, all their history, all their heritage, then you get a really very wholesome, rounded person. And I want all the British Bangladeshis to be wholesome and rounded person. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you guys can hear me. I can't hear you.
Now we can hear you. We have lost you now, Sejuti. Are you there?
গান কৌতুক ধাঁধা ও আলাপচারিতামূলক বিনোদন অনুষ্ঠান মুক্তি ফ্যান আড্ডায় আগামী বুধবার একই সময়ে মুশতাক বাবুলের সাথে থাকবেন আব্দুল হালিম, নাহিদ সুলতানা রত্না ও আবু তারেক চৌধুরী। সুস্থ সংস্কৃতি বিকাশের তত্ত্বে অনলাইন চ্যানেল মুক্তি। সাথে থাকুন, লাইক, শেয়ার, কমেন্ট করুন।
Okay, so I'm actually going to finish it off now because I think our devices have had enough. So thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in. Thank you for having a lot of patience during the technical difficulties. As we've all been, it's hiccup, it's digital what you're going to do. So thank you very much to my guests, Shandita, Ehsan, and Shakir Ahmed, MBE, for your incredible contributions to today's episode. We've hit the 10th episode. That's an incredible milestone to hit. So thank you very much. I want to say a big thank you to Mukti Online Channel BD, as always, for hosting us. If anyone wants to get involved, if anyone has any children that they would advise, please do get in touch with our coordinator, Nazrul Okib. I'll get him to put in his number or his contact details in the comments so that you're able to get hold of him. But thank you very much. It's been an incredible joy. This show has come very, very far. I remember at the beginning, we would have difficulty with guests, and now we've got such a great caliber of guests that we can always bring back. We've even extended to Bangladesh. We have guests from Bangladesh now, which is incredible. So thank you very, very, very much. So have an incredible Sunday. I'm before my wife. So thank you very much to everyone. And just to let you know that Mukti Online Channel BD will be doing promotions on occasion of Great Independence Day of Bangladesh. So do look out for, as we celebrate the success of Mukti Online Channel BD. So do look out on their Facebook page and their YouTube and promotions of all their programs. And please do get involved. We have such a great caliber of program for adults and young people as well. So thank you very much from me and the rest of the team for watching on this incredible Sunday. It's a sunny afternoon for me. I hope it's sunny where you are, and have an incredible Sunday afternoon. Bye.
Bye.